All right, so this time we're talking about the quasi-identical relationship. This one we're going to have to slow down because this one is actually really important. This is one of the ones that's going to lead to a lot of mistypings, a lot of making sense out of why there's certain mistypings, and making a lot of sense out of maybe why you typed one thing in like MBTI or whatever, and then you kind of cross over to Socionics and you get typed something else. Quasi-identical is a big one. As the name implies, you are quasi-identical. You're sort of identical, but not really. Why? You're using a lot of the same elements that this other type is, right? You're both using them and you're both using them well. So it's very noticeable, very visible to anybody looking at you going, wow, you're really good at these things. He's really good at those. You seem like the exact same type. The difference is, what do you value? That's the real key here. So are you really valuing the same things? Maybe not. So for me, as an example, I would say that I'm LIE, which is the ENTJ in Socionics. Okay, and my quasi-identical would be the the ILE, which is the ENTP in Socionics. Right, two very similar types. They're both NTs. They're both very good at various stuff. Here is quasi-identical once again from the World Socionics Society blogspot, discussing a lot of this stuff. Two partners have their leading functions matching each other's demonstrative functions with creative and ignoring and sort of. So an example of what that is saying, here I am, right? For the ILE, the ENTP, what do they lead off with? NE, and they have a very good TE as a demonstrative function, right? Those are two very strong, very bold elements that are going to be popping out to anybody looking at them. Very noticeable, very obvious, right? Now the LIE is going to have the exact same bold elements popping out, but in reversed. LIE is going to have TE as the dominant function, and then they're going to have NE as the demonstrative function. Again, bold, strong, really popping out. Also, when you get to some of the weaknesses too, okay, for myself, LIEs, we have FI as a suggestive function. It's not good. It's there. We're kind of okay, decent with it, sort of, but not really great at it. We don't do it well at all. And then we're going to have SI as our polar function that we just don't understand. We can't see the damn thing. We're atrocious at it, right? Flip it around. The ENTP, the ILE is going to have SI as a suggestive function that they're not good at, but would like to be better, and they're trying to. Okay. And they're going to have FI as the polar function that they're blind, they're horrible at, right? So you can see how we're playing with all of the same kinds of elements. They're all really popping out. It's noticeable that we're strong in these and weak in those. But it really comes down to figuring out which are being valued. That's really what it all comes down to. Are you valuing the same things? So again, ENTP values that NE. They value bouncing around different topics, different subjects and ideas for the sake of it. They can do that. And just for the heck of it, really. Lots of different ideas and so on. But their TE is strong. They can figure out what actually works, what's not going to work, what's sensible, and so on. Okay, but they don't really value that. LIE, ENTJ, it's the reverse. It's TE that we value the most. What is applicable? What is useful? What can we actually do with it? Does it have a purpose? Is that exactly what we know to be true, etc.? But we demonstrate NE too, that we have a lot of topics and things and interests that we can bounce through, that we can explore and look around and become knowledgeable in a lot of these different ideas. But we don't want to just do that for the sake of it. We're exploring things because we're looking for useful information, useful stuff that can enhance RTE, that can enhance what we can accomplish, what's practical and useful, right? So because again, on a very superficial level, we are using the same elements very well and very noticeably, we can appear very much like the same. In fact, it might take a little bit of effort to put two quasi-identicals in a room together and kind of observe them for a little bit. And then you might start to notice that one thing doesn't seem like the other, right? You're like, you know. But at a distance, casually looking, whatever, you could easily misidentify the different types. And you, if you're typing yourself, could easily misidentify yourself. So you can go take an MBTI test and you score ENTP, but actually you're an ENTJ. MBTI is just not sophisticated enough to understand the difference in their test. And vice versa. You get ENTJ and it turns out you're an ENTP, you know, and okay, issues like that, figuring out where those valued elements really are. Again, here you see a list, all these different types. You can kind of find your own, if you know your own, and kind of see where different groups look a lot like each other. This is one of the most important relationships to kind of investigate because of it's going to lead to the most amount of like mistypings. Okay, direct mistypings right there. And a lot of times you're going to either mistype yourself or mistype someone you're looking at. You're thinking they're this thing and they're actually something else. Okay, so this is one of the key ones to spend a lot of time kind of making sure you understand this one. It's much more complicated. It's a little difficult to see. You kind of almost need to get good at typing and all the type stuff to sort of figure it out. Okay. As far as getting along goes, personally, I think you can get along fairly well with your quasi-identical. I don't see it as a really that negative relationship. Yeah, you're kind of like not valuing the same thing, so there could be problems there, of course, but it could also still work out fairly well too. It's going to depend a little bit on the situation. As it's pointing out here, partners may superficially work in similar fields and do similar things, have different priorities. Yeah. And sometimes seeing each other's wrong-headed and so on, you know, etc. So there's going to be some tension, but it's not necessarily bad. Sometimes what you need in relationships is a little bit of tension, whether that be a working relationship or not. Okay. Sometimes you need somebody who's valuing the other thing a little bit to kind of like remind you or help you out. So this one is not supposed to be a good relationship. It's kind of, you know, arguing with each other a little bit, but I don't think so. I think this one actually has room for actual working fairly well. Again, you're at least playing with the same elements and you're still pretty good at it. So this one can kind of go a little either way. It's going to depend on a lot of things, right? So quasi-identical, make sure you pay attention to this one. Super important one, right? Like, share, and subscribe, and on to the next one.